All right, welcome back. It all came down to a two-point conversion after the Steelers went in this prevent defense, which allowed Baltimore to move into the red zone, eventually score. They go for two. John Harbaugh said it was because he ran out of corners. Marlon Humphrey's out for the year, it looks like. So, Jeff, aside from that, I mean, they have one of the better kickers. He's going to make the extra point. Would you stake your chances better going to overtime with Justin Tucker, two good kickers going at it, or do you think that was the right call to put a dagger in the Steelers since he had an opportunity?
You know, this is the first time I think in a decade that John Harbaugh was the coach that made the wrong decision of the Harbaugh brothers. This is I understand his thought process. I think Baltimore is the better team. I think they showed they were just able to run it, move it down the field. If I'm them, I go to overtime, and you've got an automatic kicker. I like their chances better in overtime. I get why they went for it. I know they said they didn't have corners, but the better team, you go to overtime. I think Baltimore should have gone to overtime.
Well, I mean, this is the age-old question. If you go down the field and you score late like that, don't you have momentum? Don't you feel like you're feeling it? I think the big thing is if you don't feel like you can stop the other team because you don't have enough corners to play, if you don't feel like you've got enough defense to stop the other team, and you've got a really mobile quarterback who, let's face it, I don't think he's very good, in terms of being a passer, but inside the 5-yard line, he can be dangerous. And I think that's the most important thing is John Harbaugh, if you look at it, they go for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 4th and 1 all the time. You know, he trusts Lamar Jackson is going to be able to make a play. So at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with John Harbaugh going for it. I probably would have kicked it. But I think people are, piling on John Harbaugh, and it's like I didn't think it was that egregiously bad of a decision.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it at all. He's their coach. He knows their team. He knew the shape his defense was in. He's seen Ben Roethlisberger hot in that stadium many times, beat his Ravens over the years. He clearly felt like his defense didn't have much of a chance if the game went to overtime. I had no problem with the decision. The problem I had was having Lamar Jackson throw the ball in that position. You've got probably the best running quarterback in the history of the sport. You need to get 2 yards against a run defense that isn't very good. Why they wouldn't have had a design run for Lamar in that situation just baffled me. That was my biggest issue, was not a good throw, obviously. That's why they lost the game. And by the way, we haven't mentioned T.J. Watt yet. He's the guy who disrupted that play. He had 3.5 sacks. This guy has 16 sacks. And he's basically played in 10 games. He's putting up some pretty extraordinary numbers. Might have been the best game he ever played in his Steelers career.
And it came at a much-needed time, no question about that. We have time to look ahead a little bit, Paul Zeise, to the Minnesota Vikings. And they're going to be in an angry mood because they lost to Detroit on the final play of the game. I can't figure out, and I can say this about a lot of teams in the NFL, and even the better ones, you can't figure out what you're going to get week to week. But one thing you do get when you go to Minnesota and play in that dome is you get a very difficult assignment. Can the Steelers win that game? If so, how?
Yeah, they can win that game for the same reason they can lose that game. Kirk Cousins. You want to know why the Vikings are up and down and everything else? It's because they've got Kirk Cousins, who is the classic, he's good enough, but he's not quite good enough. And that's that's exactly how I would describe Kirk Cousins. He is better than, a lot of the stiff quarterbacks at the bottom of the barrel. But, at the end of the day, he's got a lot of Phillip Rivers. He's got a lot of, Ryan Leaf or whatever, where he's going to make a bad, throw, and he's going to make a bad decision at the worst possible time more often than not. I mean, he's a classic guy who could throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and they lose because he has 2 pick sixes with boneheaded throws. So, yeah, they can win.
Yeah, I think the Steelers can win this game for a lot of reasons. Dalvin Cook's hurt. Adam Thielen has a high ankle sprain. It looks like he's not going to play. Like Paul said, Kirk Cousins, you never know what you're going to get. You look at Ben Roethlisberger's career in domes, it's extraordinarily good. He loves throwing in that environment. By the way, the Vikings just lost to the Detroit Lions today. That can't be good psychologically for a football team. I'm sorry, it just can't be. Granted, the Steelers got whipped last week too, but not by the Detroit Lions. Who knows what the frame of mind is for the Vikings? I don't think they're that good of a team. Their defense stinks. It's a winnable game for the Steelers. We know the Steelers can lose to anyone, but there's no reason they can't win this game.
Yeah, I'm not going to get on too high of a horse because the Steelers tied Detroit here at home, and so that doesn't really bode too well. Even though the Vikings lost this game, I'm with Paul 100%. Josh is right about the injuries, but Paul's point about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, anytime you watch Minnesota and they're leading, you think, okay, they can lose this game. Absolutely. He'll make a mistake that'll have them lose this game. I do think the Steelers can go up and win it. Will they? I don't know. The Vikings and Steelers, I think, are one of like 20 average NFL teams, and you just don't know what will happen week to week.
All right, we're going to take a break and save some time for the Pitt Panthers. They're coming up next. We're going to talk about their season, winning an ACC championship, Kenny Pickett, on a variety of topics. That's next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.